Hello, it's Shelley F Knight, bringing you Positive Changes, a self-kick podcast. So today on the show, we're joined by David Ditchfield, and David is the author of a fabulous book called Shine On. Hello, David.
Hello. Thanks for having me along.
Bless you. So I've just finished reading your book and I absolutely loved it. So I'm absolutely honoured to have you here. But for those that haven't read the book yet, please can you share your story of positive change?
Sure. Okay. I guess the best place to start is briefly about where I was at in my life before I'd had my accident and the NDE that followed. So I was living in London. I'd been living there for some years. I'd left school without qualifications, so I was struggling to find any academic work. Well, I couldn't get any. So obviously living in London, it was very competitive. So I got by basically by doing manual labouring, which was fine. I met some brilliant people, but I wasn't that great at that job. So I constantly felt like I was like out of sync with everybody and everything. And so my life became very much a struggle, and I was chasing after all the wrong type of goals and relationships. And so I ended up getting to a stage where I was drinking too heavily, and I was running out of money. So it was pretty much at that point that my sister, who lived with her family up in Cambridgeshire, said, "Come and stay with us for a few days. I think you need to chill out." Well, actually, for a few weeks, she said, "You're in a bad place. You need to come and hang out with us." So I did. And while I was there, I'd kept in touch with somebody that I'd met only a few weeks prior to this, who I connected with, and I really liked her. We just got this real connection. So she's called Anna, and she came up, and while we were hanging out together, she got to get back to London for an appointment. So I took her to the rail station, and it was while I was at the station that I saw her on to the carriage with her bags. I gave her a hug and a kiss goodbye, and then I heard the emergency door buzzers start to go. So she said, "You better get off." I said, "Yeah, I'm going." So I stepped back, but as I did, the bottom section of my coat got trapped in the automatic closing doors, and I just couldn't pull it free. It was just wedged in there for good, you know. I tried everything, you know, shouting for a guard. There was no guard around. I was banging on the windows, hoping somebody might run through, but nothing happened. So I heard the engine start to rev up, and I knew it was about to pull out. And I figured at this point that this was it. I figured I'm going to die, because I knew I wasn't going to release myself from this coat. And the train started pulling out the station. At great speed, actually. You don't realise just how fast they do accelerate out of the station when you sat there getting ready for your journey, but they do. They go very fast. And I lost my footing, and before I knew it, I was pulled between the space of the platform edge and the train itself, and then I was just there. I went, and it was a very violent experience, and it seemed to go on forever. And I was fully conscious throughout the whole ordeal. And I didn't think I was going to survive still at that point. But I was thrown down between the tracks as the train carried on relentlessly. It was a very long train. And I just kept my face down into the ground, hoping that, you know, I would survive and nothing would hit me over the back of the head. And clearly I did survive. And I just thought, I can't believe what has just happened. I can't believe that I've been through that and I'm alive. Yeah, it was very frightening and very terrifying experience. And the paramedics arrived very quick, because there was a small hospital just around the corner from the station. So they jumped down on the track and started cutting through my clothes and getting me onto a stretcher. And somehow, I don't know how they managed, but they managed to get me from the ground up onto the platform, which is about 7 foot up, you know.
Yeah.
And we got in the ambulance, and I remember the driver. The driver. He was the doctor. Turned around to me and said, "Look, there's a hospital around the corner, but there's a better hospital that I know is going to save you. called Addenbrooke's Hospital. Can you hang on? I said, yeah, let's go. So we did. So we just, the siren went on and we just took off like a rocket and zoomed down the A14 M11 or what it was, you know, and then we were there, and there was a whole team of medics waiting for me there in the A&E department, and there was a lot of frantic voices going on, a lot of, you know, it was all pretty scary because I knew they sounded scared, and I didn't know what the heck they were talking about, and I thought, am I going to die? Are they, you know, I was losing a lot of blood by this stage because I had realized that my left arm had been severed in the accident, and so there was a lot of blood loss. And my family arrived really quite quick. That seemed really odd. I remember thinking, how did they get here so soon? But they did, because Anna, who was on the train, obviously, bless her, had to watch the whole ordeal unfold. She ran to the window and watched me go under, and immediately phoned my sister, in a state of panic. And so my sister was like there with my parents, and yeah. So I was apologizing to my mom because it was always me causing all the dramas in life. And I said, Mom, I'm so sorry. It's always me bringing all this mayhem to the family. And of course, she was in tears and she put her hand over my mouth and said, stop it. It's not your fault, which it wasn't my fault, you know. So yeah. So there I was, lying in complete agony, fearing for my life, in all fairness, fearing a lot for it. And I suddenly went from all the anxiety of the emergency departments of Addenbrooke's Hospital to what seemed like a lovely darkened space, but not an oppressive darkened space, a very warm and inviting space. And all the agony and the pain that I was in had just gone. It just slipped from my body. And I just felt really great. And I figured at that point that I died. I thought, this is it. I've gone over to the next side, and I hadn't survived. But I didn't resist it. I was quite happy to stay where I was. Some people do, I know, because obviously I've done a lot more research into it, and people having near-death experiences and or out-of-body experiences, and seeing the other side or the light or what have you, and they resist it. They want to go back, you know. But it's not like I wanted to die, but I was quite happy to be where I was. And I looked around and just to check out my surroundings, and the first thing I saw were these orbs of color that were pulsating all around me, and these colors were just very calming and making me feel very relaxed and peaceful. And I looked, and I was no longer lay on a hospital trolley, but I was on like this huge like rock. It was like a medieval altar. It was very huge, but it was very comfortable to lie on. And I realized that I was no longer clothed, but it didn't matter. I was comfortable. And I was covered in this blue sort of satin sheet or silk sort of, you know, texture to it. And that felt very comforting. And I remember checking out my body to look at my wounds, and everything was fixed. You know, there wasn't even a single scratch. My left arm that had been severed was back in place. And, you know, and as I say, there was no pain. So I just laid my head back and relaxed. And as I did, I looked, and there were like 3 grids of white light suddenly started closing in on me. And then as I looked into that light, I couldn't take my gaze away because there was this very powerful healing light that was coming towards me. And I felt like it was healing my body. And it was interesting because it was so intense, the light, that normally it's not the kind of light you would be able to look into. Electric light or sunlight would be just too much. But on this occasion, I could do it, and I couldn't take my gaze out. And as I lay there, sort of embracing all this loveliness that was there, I suddenly felt the presence of somebody with me. And so I lifted my head, and there was a person stood just at my feet, almost greeting me, if you like. And I felt like I'd known this person for a long time. there was an expression on that person's face that I knew, and I thought, "Who are you? I know you, don't I?" And interestingly enough, as well, this person, when I say a person, because it was neither male nor female in form, it was an androgynous being with this very contemporary black t-shirt on, nothing too ethereal, and this kind of pure white blonde hair, but a skin that was radiating light from within. And this energy that was coming from this person was just very loving and very caring. So I I figured, just kept saying, "Who are you? I know you, don't I? I know." And I just felt like it was, well, basically, it was like, it was my soulmate, like, if you meet somebody at a party for the first time and you connect and you think, "Yeah, I feel like I've
Yeah.
known you we've met before, haven't we?" It was
Yeah.
like that, but a lot more intense. So yeah, so I laid back my head again and relaxed and looked back up into the light. And then the next thing, I could feel that there was more people surrounding me at this point. So I looked, and there were two female forms either side of me. The one to my right was sort of white European, I guess, with dark brown hair, and again a very contemporary brown simple dress. And the one to my left was more Asian Indian or American Indian, wearing more of a traditional dress. And they both had their hands slowly hovering over my body. And I was feeling this sensation of love that was coming from the hands, and it was very powerful. And I felt really more than at first I thought, are they healing my wounds? I mean, because of what I'd just been through, or are they actually healing the wounds of my soul? And I figured it was more like that. I felt like they were healing, fixing all the wrongs that happened in my life, especially in the past few years. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience.
It
Um,
sounds amazing. We've had someone on before that spoke about like the near-death experience, and she actually took an overdose, and she's kind of more of the like classical, if you will, near-death experience, where she sort of like had this tunnel and she was like not in this realm, she was in another, and she had this point where she had almost a choice, like shall I stay or shall I go, sort of thing. Did you have a choice at this point?
well, basically, what I did see a tunnel of white light that did appear, and that came a bit later on. It was interesting because it was at a point where I was thinking about my family, because I knew they were down in the hospital, and I say down because I felt like I was up somewhere a lot higher
Yeah.
in a much higher source. And so um, I I remember looking over to the side, thinking I might see them in the hospital, but I didn't. But what I did see, first of all, was like this huge waterfall of stars, if you like. It was massive. It was an amazing sight. And there was like millions of stars that were just sort of cascading over the edge, and shooting stars just dropping through the middle. And I looked, the further I looked, I kept looking from one galaxy into another, and into all these beautiful colors. And I knew then that I was actually in the universe itself, as opposed to in a small darkened space that I first figured. But it was at that point that I felt a very strong energy, and it was similar to the energy that I've been feeling from the other beings of light, of love, but it was turned up, like the dial had been turned up huge. And what it was there was a white tunnel of light, and it was very vast, and it was just coming towards me. And it was, this tunnel of white light was also surrounded by all these dramatic flames that were slowly rotating around. But as awesome as it was not fearful. It was just beautiful. And I just figured straight away, because a lot of the information I was getting was all telepathy, this was the source of all creation that I was looking at. This was God. This is where it all comes from. It's not what we've always been taught to believe in human form. The guy with the beard up in the sky, or whatever our God is. And so yeah, so I did see the tunnel. But when the decision to come back was made, I didn't feel like it was my choice at all. I felt like it was a choice that had been made there and then. I figured that I'd seen enough, and I'd gained enough knowledge. And in fact, when I did come back into my own form, I continued to feel a very much a sense that I was still in that realm, and I was still receiving information through, very much so right at the beginning for the first few weeks and months. And I still get information through now. So yeah, I didn't make the decision to come back.
Okay. So when we had the lady called Marion, I think she was episode 13, she came on and she said that she had this choice of whether to come back or not. And she also was on the interview, so she chose to come back. But I was saying to her, like, when you were up there, did you get to choose or insight into what would happen when you came back? And she did. She was quite graphic, as I said in an earlier episode, that she knew that if she didn't come back, she was in the body bag, she died of a drug overdose, that's how she was remembered, and all these things. Did you know why you were coming back?
I didn't do that. Was a burning question.
Was it?
When I was lying in hospital, I was just saying, why have they sent me back? What is my quest? I knew that you have this burning feeling inside that you've got something to do, that you've got a task. And first of all, I figured it was that I was going to be a carer, that I was going to be caring for people, and I was. At first, I was in my own room, Adam Brooks, because of the severity of my injuries. But even then, I remember my mom turned around to me, because I told my parents about my experience. It took me about a week to tell them, and but when I did, it was interesting. My mom turned around afterwards and she said, "Yes, we know." And I said, "You know?" I said, "How do you know?" This is like a mother's instinct. She said that whenever we come in to see you, it's like you can hardly move, but you're glowing with all this energy, and you're caring for everyone around you. All the nurses that are looking after you, you're caring for them and giving out this care. So I figured that was what it was at first, but that wasn't to be. I wasn't to be a carer. It was initially I wanted to record straight away. I was scared that I was going to forget all this. And when I woke up after I come through, I'd been under anaesthetic for about 8 hours, and I was lying in this room on my own. I just got the machine bleeping next to me and stuff, and it was me in the machine. And part of me was processing the horror of what had just happened in that accident, but the bigger part of me was thinking about what had happened, and I've got to tell the world about this, and how are they going to know? So I thought, I'm going to do a painting. I'd never done anything like this before, but I thought I'm going to do a huge, like, Renaissance Michelangelo style painting, like the ones you see in the Vatican, because it's got to be that big and powerful, because it was that powerful. So I did. I started painting, and I didn't just do one. I kept going, and I was becoming quite prolific in painting. So I'd realised that I'd gained new abilities, and that was to start becoming an artist and painting, all these canvases. And it went from there to me also then being given messages that I was going to write music about my experience. So I'd I thought I'd played guitar, but very basic, just playing like punk sort of pop bands before this, there was nothing at all musical. But I thought I started with this idea. This came through that I was on an old synthesizer that I pulled out the cupboard one day, and this little chord sequence came through, and it sounded beautiful. And I just developed it to the stage. I thought this should be played by an orchestra. And I was realizing everything that I was doing, the paintings and the music and all the ideas that were coming through, weren't all mine. I was channeling them. They were coming through from the other side. But I got this sense of confidence as well that it would all come together, which it did. And my music was performed by an orchestra. I'd got to know a cellist while I was doing my paintings. She used to come up and see what I was doing, and we got to know each other. And we got chatting about this idea that I got, and she said, "Oh, maybe our orchestra could perform it." And they did in the end. And so I went from there to writing even more pieces, because the first one, the concert itself, sold out, which is amazing, because the energy was helping with that as well. It's like my guides, who I talked of earlier, were staying with me, and they were making everything come together. There was a lot of synchronicity followed from my near-death experience, and I've since learned that that's quite common as well with near-death experiences.
Yeah, like even when you say it, and the cellist was coming to visit you, it's like this sort of synchronicity. It's like this person turned up and this person turned up, and it sounds beautiful, like it's meant to be. Out of interest, what were your views on near-death experience before the accident?
I didn't know they existed. I'd never heard anything about them, So when I had mine, when I woke up in the hospital, I not arrogantly, but I just suddenly thought that I was the only person that this had actually happened to, and that's why I was so worried about making sure that I got this recorded for everyone to see. But when I did come out of hospital, I went online straight away to try and look into what had happened, and I came across, near-death experiences, and I the first one that I came across was this a young child had had a near-death experience, and she'd done like a drawing with felt tip pens, if you like, of her near-death experience, and it was amazing because I was recuperating at my sister's house, and they gave me my own room and stuff, and I got this computer set up, and I called my sister in and I said, "Come and look at this," and she saw it and she just welled up with tears because it was a very basic stick drawing, that a child would do. Children's artwork is just so honest, and it's there. There's no thrills, and it was this child laid out on what was more like a stick table, and she was a stick person with this blue square covering her body, which was like the blue cloth that I
Oh,
talked about.
wow.
And then she got three figures with their stick arms out over her, and then right in the top right hand corner of this drawing was this. It looked like a cornetto sort of flying through the sky, like an ice cream cone, and that was obviously the tunnel of light. So that was just amazing. So I knew then that that it was a lot more people had this happen to them. Yeah.
That's amazing. Because you say, like, we have 4 children, it is like out the mouth of babes. They just tell it as it is.
Yeah.
And I think people almost listen to children more than adults, but for you to see it so clearly, like the blue sheet and the 3 figures, is absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was real affirmation. That was, I didn't need confirmation because I knew that everything that had happened had happened. There was no sense of doubt about it. So it's a lovely moment of affirmation. So yeah.
I absolutely love it. As I said, I've read your book and I think it's fabulous, like beyond the near-death experiences, because you're really honest about the struggles you had in life, relationships, friendships, alcohol and things like that. How is life after the accident? I mean, do you stay spiritual, or was it just what you needed to do at the time? How is life now?
Yeah, I've remained spiritual, and
Yeah.
it's basically it's part of my everyday life, and it has been. It's never gone. It's never left me. So it's because it was such a powerful turnabout of events that it's I've kind of I've wanted to honor what happened to me. It was a very special thing to experience that, and to be given another chance to come back and basically sort my life out as well. It may, I learned that basically where I was going wrong before, and so I just wasn't. I just wasn't. I wasn't aware that I'd got guides. I wasn't aware that I got my own angels, and now I know that they are there, and they've been there throughout my whole life, but I just wasn't aware of it. So it's something that I don't think we all have to have a dramatic accident like me or a near-death experience to actually and understand that we've got guides, because we're loved, all of us, and so yeah, it's so like my life is a lot more spiritual, yeah, because as you can hear now, I'm very much aware of my guides and I call upon them, and I still feel their energy helping me creatively, because I'm still now my life is all about painting and creating and writing music, and everything I do, I'm still getting their help. And I'll literally stand back when something comes through an idea and I think, wow, they've just done that, not me. I just sit back and go, thank you so much. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, I like to think I'm really spiritual, not through such a drastic path as yours took, but I'm aware that when we like embrace our true self and our life path and spirituality, whatever we want to do with our life, we often lose people along the way. Have you lost people along the way? Your friends that think you're like, it's all hocus pocus or whatever, or have they stayed true to you? Have you created
No,
the change?
yeah, I've been very lucky. Yeah, everyone's stay very close to me, and everyone's heard me through and heard me out, and has supported everything that's done, right from the concert. That was very early on, and people supported me on that and all my music, and now with the book coming out, friends and family and people that have surprised me. I've been getting like you know, the old school friends getting in touch who've seen me online, seen me interviewed, and they bought the book. People I would have thought of would have read this book, and they love it. You know, it's like, wow, you got it. That's fantastic. You know, so it's brilliant. So yeah, so there's an awful lot of support, and I'm very, very lucky and gifted to have that. Yeah.
It is a beautiful book. I mean, you take a look at yourself, which I think, you know, it takes courage to do that. And you say, like, you know, I was drinking too much, I was a bit of a mess, and you kind of, I don't want to give the book away, I'd like people to buy it, but, you know, in there's like various relationships that you try that don't work out and things like that. And I think it's such a good read. I absolutely love it.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
Where do you go from here? How else can you help people? Because the book's out there, you've got the painters and the music. What other tools has it brought you?
Well, it's brought me out to talking to so many more people, which I never expected. Like yourself, you know, I figured that I'd be doing, you know, maybe 1 or 2 interviews to promote the book, but there's been a lot, which has been fantastic, and it's been spread right across the globe, if you like. So it's been speaking to all sorts of types of people from all different reaches of life, and so there's this wonderful connection, and also people who do hear the interviews, some of them get back to me and speak to me and what have you. And I was invited out to France last year to a retreat to talk to some. There's a group of women who were on the retreat. There was 12 of them, and they were all worked in hospices, and they're end of life doulas, they're called, and like soul midwives. So they're helping people with their journey on. So they asked me along to talk. So that was great. I mean, I was really humbled talking to them because their work is like tremendous, but they got a lot out of it as well, because I'm hoping that they can take it into their work. So, you know, it's basically one thing I would say about everything that I do now is not, I hardly plan it out. I don't say, right, this is the next goal. No, we're going to take it to the next level. We're going to take it to the next stage. Obviously there's a certain amount of that involved, but I kind of like, what I've learned to do is just to stick to the creative elements that I'm working on, and then the synchronicity will come to me, as we talked about, like with the cellist coming into my life and things like that. And I really believe that to be the case, because I was never doing that before. You know, I was quite the opposite, because I'd struggled so much. I was constantly trying everything I could to be a success, you know. I thought, but they were beyond my means, or they were, actually, that's wrong to say that, they just weren't meant for me. A lot of the things that I was trying, and a lot of us do that. We think, right, I'm going to try this avenue, I'm going to try that door, I'm going to add. Here's a brilliant advert, I'm going for that, you know, and you never get them because they're not meant for you. But so yeah, but who knows what comes along next. But at the moment I'm just you know, letting the journey just keep continuing onwards and opening up as it seems to be.
Yeah, it sounds like the universe absolutely has your back, and I love that. But taking you back to before the accident, just because of the type of listener we have, you know, when you were drinking too much, money was a struggle. What did you do then? How did you carry on each day? What kind of tools did you use? What was the mindset to get you through?
Basically my life, I'd say it was very linear. So I didn't stop to go into myself. I didn't stop to meditate, or you know, or anything. There was just once that I prayed, and that was when I was at a moment of complete desperation, when I was just so broke and I got no work. I remember opening the fridge door in my flat, and there was no food in there. There was just a bottle of beer just staring at me. And I remember I prayed, but interestingly enough, it was out of desperation, and I didn't know who I was praying to, so I got no focus at all. And it was odd, because when I look back now, that I prayed, but I felt like it was all my fault, and I felt guilty. So part of me was putting out a hand to ask for help, but the other one was putting a hand up saying, I'm not worthy, I messed up, I'm a mess. So you know, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think like a lot of us, you know, I just kind of like my ego, if you like, was ruling my life, and so there was no sense of the real me being in the moment at all.
I absolutely love your story. I say it's such a drastic, life-changing event, you know, because I don't know, I don't want to ruin the book, but you were told by a medium, didn't you? You had great change to come.
Yeah.
Which we probably thought was lovely, positive change. But, you know, it's
Yeah.
positive in its own way, but there's a big accident that followed, life-changing event. I love it. Do you still, like, you paint now, you still paint, you're
That's right. Yeah,
still writing, so there could be
that's right. Yeah.
another book and things like that. Do you practice mediumship or anything else?
What I do is I go to I went back to find that spiritualist church where I'd had that medium sort of message, and because I was desperate to speak to them and tell them about it and talk and try and find her. I wanted to track her down, which I did do
Yeah.
eventually. But when I was there, they said to me, "Look, we do spiritual healing here, and you look, you know, I was in a pretty bad way then. I was all covered in like plastic holding me together, you know." And so I said, "Yeah, okay." So I went along and had spiritual healing, and I still go now. So
Oh wow.
it's something that I keep up, not just to be healed, you know, because I need the healing. Sometimes I do, but sometimes really just to sort of to touch base. I find with the universe and with my guides, and just feel that loving energy coming through. And spiritual healing is amazing. I mean. It's mad. I mean, there's hardly anybody there when I go. There should be queues around the block for this because it's like, really, I mean, it's just a donation. You can give what you want, and it's fantastic. It's really wonderful, and it's not. I think people get scared of the idea of the word spiritual healing because they just think, you know, that you know, someone's going to be shaking the devil out of you, something like
Yeah.
that. But it's not at all.
Chanting,
It's exactly, and
levitating.
it's levitating and all that, but it's nothing like that. It's almost like I've never had Reiki healing, but I figured that it's very similar to that. So it's kind of just, you know, just hands on, but it's very calming and very peaceful. And the healers themselves they're conducting their channeling through the energy from above, and it comes through them through their hands, and they're guided to go to whatever part of you needs healing, not necessarily physically, but sometimes emotionally. Like a lot of the time, my solar plexus, you know, needs healing or what have you, and so you get. So yeah, so I'm very much obviously I haven't been able to go for the last few months because of the COVID. Outbreak, so I miss going to that. But yeah, but one of the healers turned up at my door actually on Sunday. I was a real surprise. You know, it's lovely just to come
Synchronicity.
around and say hey, you know, and he'd read the book and stuff, so that was lovely. So yeah.
What's been your greatest lesson through all of this? Because it's been such a journey, and I'm sure people can have, you know, less dramatic, life-changing events. But what's the biggest lesson you've taken from this journey?
Is self-love. Really, I realized I didn't love myself at all because of of what I felt with my failings in life. I was really beating myself up. Whereas, as I talked of earlier, there was so much unconditional love when I was in the near-death experience itself that I carried that back with me, and I maintain it. You know, I work at it. I make sure that you know, I have to work at it sometimes. You know, I don't. It's not. I'm human, and things can get to me sometimes very badly, but generally speaking, you know, I love myself a lot more. And once you start to realize that you can love yourself, then you find that you can achieve a lot more because you find self-worth and you find authenticity. And then, as I said before, again, you know, the right things that are meant to come to you will come,
Yeah.
and you know, doors will slowly open that in front of you that you're not pushing, and your life will go a lot more along basically, to me, I just feel that we come into this world and it's almost like we've got a highway in front of us, and we're all tempted from time to time, if there's to go off that highway and say, oh, that looks like a good route, that looks tempting, but that route's not the one for you. And then, so what I felt like with my experience was that they literally took me off the route, so I was desperately challenging, and then put me back onto the track. And so forgive the pun, but so I'm just you know, so I maintain that I stay on that route now. Yeah.
Do you think our life is like predestined? Do you think we're all meant to experience certain things, or do you think this free will comes in, we can zigzag along these paths?
Well, that's it. I think it is predestined, but we have got that free will, and that's what I was talking about. That so we've got that free will to take those side roads off. But I just figure that, you know, basically, you know, ultimately we will come back, hopefully, to the route that we're meant to travel. And once we do go, I mean, it's when if you see people who are successful. I hate using that word, but you know, we have to use it because we live in a society that's built like that, and we all aspire to success. But if you do actually see like for example, successful actors who have been interviewed and stuff like that, you can see that they're comfortable in their own skin. You know, they're comfortable with their own journey. You know, because their ego's not really, as much as you think it is not guiding their pathway, because they're in the moment, and they're in the right path, and so they're following it through. So it's working for them.
Yeah, I love that. My friend, she saw the word alignment, and she said that when you're in alignment with your purpose, that you have probably that what your mum saw, when you knew what your purpose was, you have that sort of the glow, that your energy changes, and you just attract the things you're meant for when
Yes.
you're aligned,
Yeah.
which is wonderful. Going back, I love the story of the retreat where he's working with the end of life doulas. I think that's brilliant, and I just want to thank you today for doing the near-death experience, because it wasn't your background at all, was it? You was like a manual worker, and now you're sort of like, you talk about your guides and angels, and I love it. I think you could change the world, David. I really do.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you, because I think we should speak about it more often. To me, my family have called me hocus pocus for years, and to me, I speak about near-death experience over mashed potato at dinner time.
Well, why not?
But I absolutely love speaking to you. How can people find you? We've got a website, shineonthestory.com.
That's it. So shineonthestory.com is basically the main hub, and you can go there and you can stream my music for free, the symphony that I just talked about, which is called The Divine Light, which is based on my NDE. So you can listen to that, and you can see my paintings and links to, or if you want to follow me on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube, there's links for that on there as well. And there's links to the book, which I'm just going to hold up if you don't mind. So here's the book. So that's Shine On. So that's the one that's out at the moment. So that's available now on Amazon. It went straight to number 1 in its category of near-death experiences, and on Amazon in UK and US, which I was really excited about. Whether it's still at that place, I don't know. Probably not, because there's millions of books coming out all the time. But it was, again, there's a lot of synchronicity in that. It's getting out to the universe, and it's fabulous.
And when I introduced you at the beginning, I said, David Ditchfield, author of Shine On, and it's because you've got a very long title for your books. If they're going on to Amazon, it's a very long title, but I didn't want to ruin the whole positive change. So I've got Shine On, the remarkable story of how I fell under a speeding train, journey to the afterlife, and the astonishing proof I brought back with me.
Yeah.
So when you go buy it after the show, it's a very long title, but we didn't want to ruin the plot twist, did we?
No, exactly. Yeah, but you'll find if you go onto Amazon, you just put my name in and Shine On, it will come up straight away, to be honest with you. So yeah.
David, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you, because I know, when you were sort of saying that, how horrific it was with Anna on the train and not being able to fight it, it's quite scary to revisit it. So thank you so much for sharing today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me along.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please ensure you subscribe and do leave a positive review. If you would like to create your own positive changes, head on over to shelleyfknight.com and you can buy yourself a copy of Positive Changes, a self-kick book. If you want some positivity until the next show, come join us over on Facebook. That's Shelley F. Knight, Life Goes On. So I've been Shelley F. Knight, and as always, you've been amazing.